Hey everyone, and welcome to part 12 of Let's Clone a Pokemon Game. So last time we added a function to be able to talk to NPCs. Now there's something else we want to be able to add to this as well, and that's being able to display multiple strings of text when we talk to an NPC. So in a lot of Pokemon games you talk to an NPC and they go through one piece of text, you like tap a button and it goes to the next and the next and the next. Now we're going to be adding a simplified form of that for now. Later on we'll get a little more advanced and I'll explain that a little bit more, but we want to get the basic setup for that right now. So while we're talking to an NPC, we don't want our character to move. We don't want our character to be able to do anything else besides, click through the text to talk to the NPC. So we're going to have to implement a few things for this, and I'm going to try not making it that complicated this time around, but it's going to get a little more complicated since um, this type of thing is a little more advanced than, the basic stuff we've been implementing. But I'll try making it easy as possible for new people to understand what we're going to be going through. So first, I guess I should be saying we're going to be adding a different variable to our player stats, and this will be called disable movement. Now what this is going to do is while we're talking to an NPC, we want to make it so our player cannot move around while they're talking to this NPC. We want to keep them, still. And so that's how we're going to implement that. So if we grab this disable movement and we scroll down here, we're going to want to put this in all this. So, is combat. Alright, so we're going to add this to a couple places. We could just contain it all, but I kind of want to keep this stuff out of there. So we'll just use AND statements for this. Disable movement, or we'll say does not equal disable movement. And we'll copy this. And we're also going to want to add this to this area down here. So if we're not in combat, and so pretty much, yeah, like is in combat, that made it so we couldn't move around our character while we were currently in combat. So this is also going to be something else. We could just, get rid of is in combat and just use disable movement, but I think it'll be easy for you guys to understand this a little bit better with that. So we'll save that out, and I think we're pretty much done with that for now. So we're mostly going to be working in our NPC code. So what I did was take the talk message that we made last time, and instead of just leaving it a string, we're going to turn this into an array. Because with Pokemon games, they display multiple things of text per page, so maybe they'll say one thing, and then, you press down on the A button, and it goes to the next page of text that displays, and later on we're going to be able to actually write that out as well, like how they do with writing it out as it's displayed. But we will go over that later. Another thing we're going to be using is display text. Now the difference between these two is this one holds all of our strings for each of our texts. So just think of it as a list 0, 1, 2, 3. Each one has a different bit of text. Depending on which one we are on, we want to display that one, only that one in this. So it's going to get replaced each time we go through that list to display something different. And then show text is just a boolean, and in our on GUI, whatever you put inside of there will only display when this is true. So it's only going to be true while we're talking to an NPC, so the text should only show up when we are talking to an NPC. So this is just a simple GUI label, and we have our different parameters set. So 10 by 10 is where it's displayed on screen, 500 is length, and this is height. Now, we won't be using multiple rows right now. I could go over that later. So if we exceed a certain amount of the string, it can go down to the next row or something like that. You'd want to make that higher though. And another thing you can do is use, let's see, screen.width divided by 2. And we could do screen.height divided by 2. So what this does is no matter what your screen size is when you're playing the game, it'll always be centered to the center of the screen. Now you can actually offset this as well if you want. So you could do like plus 100 or something. So it goes to the center and then it offsets it by 100. You can subtract it and go the other way, or wherever you want to position it on your screen itself. So that's the basic setup for that. So this text should only display when show text is true, but it defaults to false, so it won't be showing up. Okay, now we'll move down to our actual talk code. So for this piece of code, this is going to allow us to actually access the script that's on our player, which is player stats. Now, in order to access this, we have to create another variable for player stats for this script, and then we have to take that variable and equal it to the game object that we want to grab the variable from. So this game object or script is located on our player. So this is just named, right here, player. Make sure it's capitalized or whatever you guys need to do to get that correct, or else it's not going to work. So get component, and then it's just getting component player stats. It's just how Unity runs things, and that's how it works. So if we want to actually change this variable from this script, we can do other dot, and then what we'll do is we'll go here, and we'll grab this. So if we want to change that piece of code, other.disable movement equals to true. So when we're talking to someone, we want to disable that. And we'll actually copy this and move it down here. So when we're done talking to them, it'll default back to false. Everything will disappear and we'll be able to move around again. So I'll go over the rest of the script. So when we start talking, we want show text equal true. It'll show our text. And then we're going to be using a for loop. Now, people who are new to this tutorial series or haven't followed any other tutorials or are new to Unity or programming, they might not understand, or you guys might not understand what a for loop is. Now, a for loop is pretty much something that repeatedly goes through itself as many times as, it's needed. So if you do variable I equals 0, so this variable I will start off at 0. If I is less than, let's say you said 5. So this would loop through 5 times. And then it would stop and go to this. So it would stay within here, it would get to the end, and it would keep looping through like 5 times. Then once it's done looping through, it'll call the last piece of code and then break out of this function. So it's not calling anything in here anymore. So it pretty much just runs through, loops, and then exits. So what we're going to be doing is setting up a simple way to, display this text in an easy manner. There's other ways to do this, which we're going to be doing in the future, so that we can actually, spam the spacebar when we're ready to go on to the next one. But for now, it's just going to be displaying text for a certain amount of seconds and then, going to the next. So this is a basic form of that, just for new people to understand a little bit more. Okay, so for this for loop, we do I equals 0. And as long as I is less than talkMessage.length. So talkMessage is our string, and .length means how many things are actually in this string. So what we're going to do is go into Unity, and I'll show you guys how to set this up. So let's see here. We want to go on to our MPC, and we have talkMessage here. Now when you do convert things to an array, you'll lose anything that you had in there. We'll set this one to 3. And we'll make this simple. We'll do, hey, what's up? And like, bye. And so we have 3 things in here. We'll add a few more to this one. Maybe we'll add 4 to this. And we'll say like, hello. And maybe we'll type some numbers just so we have a variation, so we know that each of these NPCs is different. So yeah, this one has 3 things of text, and this one has 4. So when we go through this loop, it's going to play it's going to display the first element first, or element 0. Wait 5 seconds, go to this one, wait 5, go to that one, and that one. and then it'll be done with that. And after it's finished with that, it's going to leave here. It's gonna, hide the text, and it's going to re-enable our movement, and it'll be like we're done talking to the NPC itself. So with this dot length, so I guess I'll explain this a little bit more. So when this for loop starts, display text equals talk message I. So I is going to equal to 0, which means we're in the 0 slot of talk message. So whatever string that is going to be applied to our display text, which is plugged into here, which is then plugged into our label, and that's what's displayed. And equal, so whatever it equals to, it erases what was previously there and puts something new. So after we wait 5 seconds, it'll go back through the for loop. It'll, I++, so it'll add 1. This will be 1. Display text equals talk message 1. So instead of 0, it'll be grabbing 1 from talk message, which it'll be plugging into display text and displaying there. So it'll be a new string. So every time it goes through, it's displaying a new string. We're actually going to lower this just so we don't have to wait as long to see. And that should be all you guys need to know for that. So we can go test this out real quick. And hopefully everything works properly. So we're just walking along, and we want to talk to an NPC. Now I'm trying to tap my keys to move somewhere, and my spacebar. Hey, hello, what's up, bye. And then it's done. Oh, and then I regain movement again. So you can see there, I can talk to NPCs, I won't be able to move around. And after I'm done talking to them, I can, move around again. So this NPC displayed that text. Let's go talk to this one. Hello. 1, 2, 3, and then it breaks. And I was tapping the keys the whole time, but now I can actually move again. So you see how our little NPC system works. Now that's a very basic form. The Pokemon form would be, the text gets written out, and then it has a little blinking like icon. And then when you tap a key, like we're going to use spacebar, but it's going to go to the next line of code and write it out again. And there's also times where, NPCs will give you an item. So we got to kind of, code that in as well if we want the NPC to give the player a certain item or a specific item. Or if, other events might happen from that. But most of the time they just, talk to you. Maybe they might activate some other event or something like that. But we'll go over all that in the future. I just wanted to get the basic setup for our NPC here. And if you want to implement that more advanced, talking feature where you're not going to be able to move around and it actually, displays on screen, you got that down. So yep, until next time.